So hi, I'm Elizabeth Choe. By day, I run the MIT K-12 Videos program in the Office of Digital Learning at MIT, and I was the lead instructor / creator for 2219.
Hi, I'm Joshua Gunn, and I'm the co-founder of Planet Nutshell, a Cambridge, Massachusetts-based animation studio. And my role in the course was simply to do a workshop on storyboarding, as well as a little instruction on animation in the context of producing educational media.
My name is George Zaidan. I am a freelance science video host and writer and producer. And for 2219, I did a workshop on writing and hosting.
I'm Chris Boebel. I'm Media Development Director for MIT's Office of Digital Learning. And for the course, I was basically a guest lecturer. I came in for a day or two to talk about visual storytelling.
So the way this class started, I would say, is George and I were working on Science Out Loud, which is this educational web series that's hosted by MIT students, and sort of noticed that there was this big need to help students not only know how to articulate themselves on camera, articulate well on camera, but just understand digital media in general. And that's a conversation that Chris and I have had since I was your student as an undergrad, basically. Yeah.
Not that many years.
So yeah, actually not really. Yeah. But yeah, with Science Out Loud, I mean, we would do these like crash courses on scripting and writing these short videos, but at the end of the day, like we would still intervene quite a bit to make the videos good. And at the end of the day, the priority was making a great video and not necessarily on the students' learning experience. So, I mean, this was a space for them to develop these skills sort of lower stakes, you know, and not have to worry about creating something that was like going to be on a web series at the end.
The class was supposed to be lower stakes.
Yeah.
Because we had Science Out Loud was a lot of pressure. We were shooting long days. If they did, you know, they felt like if they didn't get the take right, they were nervous.
Yeah.
And
or like if the script just wasn't good by the time we had to shoot, like we would just fix it, you know.
Yeah, and one of the things you and I have talked about a ton over the last couple of years is that tension between creating a consistently good product and teaching. Because if you're in a teaching environment, you know, you're going to fail over and over and over again, which does not lead to a particularly, you know, consistently good product, which is what you're going for with Science Out Loud. So this class is kind of a way, I think, to find a space in between where you can actually have a little bit of a chance to experiment and learn by doing and fail bluntly, but also, you know, not actually impact your show, which needs to be consistently good.
Was there any desire to sort of create an awareness for students of like other sort of creative opportunities outside of the science and math or their current studies? I mean, like, I think it's a really interesting way this course is sort of offered to students who are engaged in stuff that's really quite different.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, it's interesting because MIT has this communication requirement, but it's not really taken seriously by students because it's like I need to take a class where I'm required to write 20 pages of a paper. And you and I were talking about one of the bioengineering communication fellows, and he said something like, I'm doing this program because I don't see a difference between science and science communication, which I think like that inadvertently was what this class was about, because it's not really about like how to host a science show or how to write a 5-minute script. Like that, I don't care if they never make a 5-minute video again, but hopefully the skills that they learned and picked up were things that they need to have regardless of what they end up going into. Just the ability to articulate passionately and clearly some very technical topics is not something that you can get trained on enough at MIT.
Yeah, and I think the MIT communication requirement is an interesting situation too, because it is all focused on writing and, you know, writing papers. Not even just writing, not even writing like writing scripts, but writing papers. And for instance, the course that I teach that you took, we initially had trouble getting it listed as fulfilling the communication requirement, even though students consistently said, well, this is all this course is about, communication, because the writing requirement was just a little bit shy of the 20-page or whatever it is requirement. So there's a whole other kind of communication, which is, as you say, clear conceptualization, visualization, organization, which is related to writing and writing kind of traditional papers, but it's in 2015. It's not just writing journal papers or kind of really more traditional pieces of text.
Actually, before I put the class together, the first thing I did was just survey all of the media making classes on campus. So anything related to video production or like script production. And there are actually a lot of classes on campus that are about, how do you edit, how do you produce video? But there wasn't one on really hosting, actually. And being on camera and being comfortable talking in front of people was something that we found to be very important through Science Out Loud, and something that students were the most uncomfortable with, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, they were, they didn't even know they were uncomfortable with it. They would just they'd be like, oh yeah, no problem. I'll just talk. And then you get in front of a camera, and it's like Jack Donaghy in that episode of 30 Rock where you can't, you don't understand why your body doesn't quite work the way you thought it was, or your voice is a little too high, and you get nervous, and then you screw up, and then you screw up again, and then, then they realize how hard it actually is to stand in front of a camera and say things. So yeah.
It's not just about standing in front of a camera though. Like
any audience, really.
I feel like it was like I wanted them to learn how to be self-aware of who they were as a presenter, because like we weren't trying to make them become a persona. Like we called it becoming the next Bill Nye, but it really wasn't. That was like the first thing I talked about, was that we're not actually turning you into Bill Nye. That wherever you go, whether it's a job interview or you're giving a TED Talk or a formal presentation, I mean, you need all these skills, and you can't like assume some sort of platonic personality, when you do these things.
It's not acting. It's just being
yourself.
Themselves, yeah.
But just a clear, polished version of yourself.
Yeah. Kind of close to what the real thing is, but maybe not entirely there.
Awareness of an audience. Yeah.